The grand hall of the Galactic Council echoed with laughter. Ambassador Rex stood at the center podium, his human face red with frustration. Around him, representatives from 50 different species chuckled at what they had just heard. "You claim your species survived on a death world?" asked Crix, the tall blue ambassador from Vega Prime. His 6 eyes blinked in amusement. "Earth, with its deadly storms, predators, and diseases? Impossible." Rex straightened his uniform. "Not only survived, but thrived. We conquered every continent, tamed the wildest beasts, and built cities in the harshest places." More laughter filled the chamber. The crystalline beings from Theta Station clinked like wind chimes as they shook with mirth. The floating gas creatures from Neptune's moons released bubbles that popped with tiny giggles. "Humans tell such stories," said Vara, the council's eldest member. Her green scales reflected the artificial sunlight. "Next, you will claim you fought wars among yourselves and survived." "We did," Rex said firmly. "Thousands of them. Each one made us stronger." The council chamber erupted in fresh waves of disbelief. Everyone knew humans were newcomers to space, barely 200 years into interstellar travel. They ran cargo ships and managed trade posts. Nothing more. "Your legends speak of warriors who fought with primitive weapons," Crix continued, reading from his datapad. "Soldiers who marched through frozen wastelands. Sailors who crossed violent oceans in wooden vessels. Pure fantasy." Rex's jaw tightened. "Every word is true. We have the records, the ruins, the enough." Vara raised a clawed hand. "The council has serious matters to discuss. The swarm approaches our borders. 20 systems have already fallen. Their bioships consume entire planets." The laughter died instantly. The swarm was no joke. For 50 years, they had spread across the galaxy like a plague, devouring everything in their path. No alliance had stopped them. No weapon had worked. "We need real solutions," Crix said, his voice now serious. "Not human fairy tales about ancient warriors and imaginary strength." Rex grabbed his datapad and turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "When you face the swarm and your perfect worlds burn, remember that you laughed at Earth's children." After Rex left, the council continued their debate. They discussed shield harmonics and diplomatic solutions. They talked about evacuation plans and surrender terms. Nobody mentioned the humans again. 3 days later, everything changed. The first report came from Border Station 9. A massive fleet had appeared from hyperspace. Not just any fleet, hundreds of ships bearing Earth's symbol, but these were not cargo vessels. These were warships, ancient in design, but modified with current technology. "Impossible," Crix said, studying the images. "Humans do not have a military fleet." But they did. Ships named after Earth's ancient warriors: Spartan, Samurai, Viking, Zulu. Each vessel was scarred from battles the council knew nothing about. Each crew member wore armor that mixed old Earth designs with modern protection. The second report was stranger. The human ships were not retreating from the swarm like everyone else. They were heading straight toward them. "They will be destroyed," Vara predicted. "No one engages the swarm directly." The third report silenced the entire council. The humans were not just fighting the swarm. They were winning. Video feeds showed human soldiers in powered armor, carrying weapons that seemed primitive, but proved devastatingly effective. They used tactics no civilized species would consider boarding enemy bioships, fighting in close combat, turning the swarm's own biology against them. How? Crix whispered, watching a human squad plant explosives inside a swarm queen's nest. The answer came from Admiral Stone, commander of the human fleet. His scarred face appeared on the council's main screen. Behind him, a swarm bioship burned in space. "You asked about our legends," Stone said calmly. "Every human grows up hearing stories of our ancestors. warriors who fought against impossible odds, explorers who crossed deadly oceans, survivors who endured plagues, wars, and disasters. You called them fairy tales. He paused, letting his words sink in. We call them inspiration. Admiral Stone's image flickered on the council screen as explosions lit up the space behind him. The council members watched in stunned silence as another swarm bioship split in half, green fluid spilling into the vacuum of space. For 200 years, we played nice, Stone continued, his voice carrying the weight of hidden truth. We hauled your cargo, managed your trade routes, smiled at your jokes about weak humans. But we never forgot who we are. Vara leaned forward, her scales shifting to a darker shade. What are you saying? Every human colony you've seen? They sit on worlds you considered worthless. Too much gravity. Too many storms. Too much radiation. Stone's scarred lips curved into a grim smile. We've been training. Every generation, preparing for the day when the galaxy would need what only Death Worlders can provide. The main screen split into multiple feeds. The Council saw human colonies they had never known existed. Underground cities on high-gravity worlds where humans trained in 3 times normal weight. Arctic bases where soldiers learned to fight in conditions that would freeze most species solid. Underwater facilities where humans practiced combat in crushing pressure. Impossible, Crix muttered, but his 6 eyes were fixed on the screens. You want to know our real secret? Stone asked. A new image appeared, a human child, no more than 5 years old, climbing a tree while the mother watched from below. We let our young face danger. Small dangers at first, then bigger ones. Every human child learns to fall, to bleed, to get back up. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Their own species protected their young in safe bubbles until adulthood. The swarm conquers through fear, Stone explained. They've never faced a species that treats fear as an old friend. Watch. The screen showed helmet footage from a human marine. The soldier was inside a swarm bioship, surrounded by writhing tentacles and acid-dripping walls. Instead of panicking, the marine was laughing, actually laughing, while firing a weapon that looked like an ancient Earth shotgun, modified with plasma technology. That's Corporal Tom, Stone said. He grew up in Australia. He says the swarm reminds him of the spiders back home, just bigger and less venomous. Rex had returned to the council chamber, standing quietly by the door. Several members glanced at him with new understanding and fear. Your military traditions, Vara said slowly. We thought they were ceremonial. Every human serves 2 years, Rex confirmed. Not ceremonial. Combat training. Survival training. We call it remembering our roots. The screen showed more impossible footage. Human ships ramming into swarm vessels. Soldiers with names like Wolf Squadron and Reaper Team using tactics that violated every civilized rule of warfare. They fought dirty. They fought brutal. They fought to win. The swarm has taken 20 systems, Crix said. How many ships do you have? Enough, Stone replied. But ships don't win wars. Will does. And humans have been testing their will against death since we climbed down from the trees. A priority alert flashed across the screen. The swarm's main fleet, over 10,000 bioships, had changed course. They were heading toward Earth. The council gasped. This was the swarm's killing blow strategy overwhelming force against a species homeworld. Stone didn't even blink. Perfect. Home field advantage. You're insane, Vara said. 10,000 ships, heading to a world with 8 billion humans who grew up on a planet that tries to kill them daily. A world with hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and worse. Stone's grin widened. The swarm thinks Earth is our weakness. They're about to learn it's our forge. Rex stepped forward. Council members, I formally request you observe what happens next. You need to understand what humanity really is. And what is that? Crix asked. Rex looked at each member. We're the species that looked at a death world and called it home. We fought nature, we fought each other, we fought everything that tried to end us. And we won every time by becoming stronger. Stone's final words echoed through the chamber before the transmission ended. The swarm is about to learn why humanity's children tell stories about monsters. It's not to scare them. It's to teach them that monsters can be beaten. The council sat in silence, watching the tactical display as Earth's hidden fleets began to emerge from places no one had thought to look. The swarm's bioships descended upon Earth like a plague of locusts, blocking out the sun across multiple continents. 10,000 vessels, each one a living nightmare of teeth, tentacles, and acid. They had consumed worlds with far better technology than Earth. But Earth didn't react like other worlds. No panic in the streets. No mass evacuations. Instead, sirens rang out across every city, not evacuation sirens, but assembly calls. Humans emerged from buildings carrying weapons, some military issue, others clearly improvised. Children were sent to reinforced bunkers, not to hide, but to watch and learn. In the council chamber, the members observed through satellite feeds, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. They're not running, Vara whispered. The first swarm pods hit New York. Massive. Six-legged creatures burst out, acid dripping from their mandibles. They had devastated armies on other worlds. Here, they met something different. Construction workers with exosuits meant for building. Skyscrapers grabbed the creatures and threw them into industrial grinders. Office workers emerged from buildings with modified nail guns that fired titanium spikes. Look at Moscow. Crix pointed at another screen. The Russian city had activated something called Winter Protocol. The entire city's temperature dropped to minus 60 degrees in minutes. Swarm creatures, adapted to various environments but not Earth's extremes, froze solid. Citizens with hammers casually walked up and shattered them like ice sculptures. Tokyo had released their guardian units, elderly humans in powered armor who called themselves the retired. They moved with deadly precision, each one having survived Earth's wars, disasters, and daily dangers for 70-plus years. Their elderly fight? A council member gasped. Their elderly are their most dangerous, Rex corrected. They've survived Earth the longest. The Amazon rainforest proved to be the swarm's worst nightmare. The bioships that landed there found themselves under attack, not just from humans, but from Earth itself. Tribal warriors had somehow trained the jungle to respond to invasion. Poisonous frogs, venomous snakes, army ants all turned against the swarm as if Earth's ecosystem itself had joined the fight. In Australia, the footage was almost comical. Humans rode into battle on modified vehicles, whooping and hollering like it was a celebration. One group had actually tamed and armored the native wildlife. The council watched in horror as Australians rode giant armored kangaroos into battle, while others had trained cassowaries, Earth's deadliest birds, as attack animals. They weaponized their wildlife? Vara couldn't hide her shock. No, Rex said. They partnered with it. Earth's creatures have been trying to kill humans for millions of years. Makes them excellent allies against invaders. Africa coordinated a response that defied belief. Ancient warrior traditions merged with modern technology. Zulu formations with energy shields. Maasai warriors with plasma spears. Egyptian descendants activated something in the pyramids that created an energy field vaporizing any swarm that approached. But the real surprise came from Earth's oceans. The swarm had ignored the water, focusing on land targets. A fatal mistake. Earth's navies had been waiting. Submarines emerged from the deepest trenches, where humans had been living and training in pressures that would crush most species. They fired torpedoes filled with something called thermite paste that burned even underwater. How do they have weapons that burn in water? Crix demanded. Because Earth's oceans are terrifying, Rex explained. We had to develop weapons just to explore them safely. Then came the coordinated counterstrike. Every major city had been connected by underground maglev tunnels, not for transportation, but for rapid military deployment. In minutes, armies moved between continents, appearing wherever the swarm was weakest. Admiral Stone's voice crackled over the communications. Phase 1 complete. Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2? Vara asked. This was only Phase 1? The sky above Earth suddenly filled with lights. Not ship satellites. Thousands of them, all connected, all charging. Meet Project Icarus, Stone announced. Every satellite we've launched for communications was actually a weapons platform. We just needed a reason to activate them. The satellites fired in unison. Beams of concentrated solar energy, each one powerful enough to pierce a bioship's organic armor. The swarm fleet in orbit started burning, but the masterstroke was yet to come. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in bunkers the Council had never known existed, millions of humans sat at computers. Not soldiers, gamers, programmers, hackers. They had been studying the swarm's biosignatures for the past 72 hours. Every human child plays strategy games, Rex said. We've been crowdsourcing military tactics since before we reached space. The screens showed teenagers sending attack patterns to military commanders. Office workers designing virus codes to confuse swarm navigation. Grandmothers who played puzzle games, calculating optimal strike positions. Earth wasn't just fighting back. It was teaching the galaxy how to win. Asterisk, the Swarm Queen herself emerged from the largest bioship, a creature so massive she could be seen from orbit. No world had ever forced her to reveal herself. Her psychic scream echoed across Earth, meant to paralyze entire populations with fear. Humans felt it. And laughed. That's it. Came a voice from Chicago. I've had worse migraines. The Queen's confusion rippled through the swarm's hive mind. Never had a species resisted the fear projection. But humans had been living with anxiety, stress, and existential dread since they developed consciousness. The Queen's psychic attack felt like a typical Monday morning. That's when the real Deathworlder Armada arrived. Jump gates opened around Earth, not the smooth. Controlled gates of civilized species, but ragged tiers in space itself. Ships poured through, each one scarred and battle-worn. These weren't Earth's hidden fleet. These were the colonies. Mars came first. The Red Colony had spent 2 centuries in lower gravity, developing bone-density drugs that made their soldiers nearly unbreakable when fighting in Earth gravity. They dropped from orbit in pods that should have killed them on impact. They walked out laughing, carrying weapons that fired compressed Martian dust harmless to humans, but deadly to swarm respiratory systems. Europa Base arrived next, their ships coated in ice 7 meters thick. They had learned to survive in Jupiter's radiation belt, developing shields that turned radiation into weapon energy. Their soldiers wore suits that could function in absolute zero or boiling heat. The asteroid miners came third. Humans who had spent generations in zero gravity, their bodies adapted to space itself. They didn't need ships for boarding actions. They wore modified mining suits and jumped between vessels using handheld thrusters, planting mining charges that could crack asteroids or bioships. How many human colonies exist? Vara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Every rock you deemed worthless, Rex replied. Every hell world you avoided. Every place where survival was impossible. We made them home. Venus Cloud City descended through Earth's atmosphere, their floating platforms turned into aerial fortresses. They had spent a century in sulfuric acid clouds, developing armor that laughed at the swarm's acid attacks. Deep space stations arrived humans who had lived so far from any sun that they had developed enhanced night vision and resistance to cosmic radiation. They brought weapons powered by dark matter, something the Council didn't even know could be weaponized. Each colony brought their own evolution of human warfare. Titan's methane breathers with flamethrowers that burned in no oxygen. Pluto's cryogenic warriors who could slow their metabolism to near death, becoming invisible to swarm heat detection. Mercury's solar farmers with mirrors that concentrated sunlight into death beams. But the true shock came when the generation ships arrived. "We thought those were lost," Crix said. "Ancient ships sent out before you achieved faster-than-light travel." "Not lost," Rex corrected. "Preparing." 3 massive vessels, each one the size of a city, emerged from deep space. The U's Persistence, launched 300 years ago. The U's Defiance, 400 years in the void. The UE's Vengeance, the first-generation ship, 5 centuries old. These humans had been born in space, lived in space, and evolved in space. They had faced mechanical failures, plagues, civil wars, and isolation that would drive other species insane. They had become something beyond human true void-born deathworlders. The Swarm Queen tried to retreat, but found her bioship surrounded, not just by human vessels, but by something impossible tamed space creatures. Humans had found life in the void, massive energy beings that fed on radiation, and they had made friends with them. "You domesticated space monsters?" Vara's scales had turned white with shock. "We domesticated wolves on Earth," Rex shrugged. "Same principle, bigger scale." The battle turned into a slaughter. Each human colony brought tactics born from their unique hells. The Jupiter moon colonies used gravity slingshots to accelerate asteroids into biological bullets. The solar stations reflected sunlight from mirrors the size of continents. The deep-sea Earth colonies released bioengineered viruses that ate through swarm organic matter. Admiral Stone appeared on screen again, now standing on the bridge of a ship called Humanity's Wrath. Behind him stood commanders from every human colony, each one scarred, modified, or evolved for their particular environment. "The swarm made one mistake," Stone announced. "They assumed we were one species. But humans aren't one anymore. We're hundreds of species, each one forged by different hells, united by one truth." "What truth?" The Queen's psychic voice echoed through translators, pain and fear evident. "We don't just survive death worlds. We become them." The Swarm Queen's bioship cracked like an egg, split open by concentrated fire from 17 different human colonies. As her massive form floated dead in space, the remaining swarm vessels didn't flee. They simply stopped. Their hive mind shattered without the Queen's guidance. In the council chamber, silence reigned. The members watched as human ships began collecting the dormant swarm vessels, not destroying them, but studying them. "What are they doing?" Crix asked. "Learning," Rex answered. "Every enemy teaches us something." The swarm's biological technology could help terraform dead worlds or cure diseases. Nothing is pure evil, just misunderstood or misused. Admiral Stone's fleet gathered above Earth. Ships from colonies the Council hadn't known existed. The count was staggering, over 50,000 vessels, each one unique, each one adapted to environments that would kill most galactic species. Stone transmitted to the Council. "The swarm controlled 20 systems. We're liberating them all. Any objections?" No one spoke. How could they object to the species that had just saved the galaxy? Within days, reports flooded in. Human fleets had appeared in every swarm-controlled system. But they weren't just destroying the swarm remnants. They were helping rebuild. Mars colonists, Experts in terraforming hostile worlds began restoring destroyed ecosystems. Space station dwellers repaired orbital habitats. Earth's doctors, who had fought every disease their death world could produce, cured swarm bioplagues in weeks. "You're helping worlds that aren't even human," Vara observed. "That's what Guardians do," Rex said simply. The liberated worlds sent delegations to Earth, expecting to meet hardened warriors. Instead, they found humans celebrating. Music festivals where soldiers danced next to civilians. Museums displaying the swarm technology next to ancient Earth weapons. Children playing with modified swarm creatures that had been reprogrammed as pets. "You turned their weapons into toys?" A delegate asked in disbelief. "Why not?" An Earth general replied, "Fear is just ignorance. Understanding removes fear." A council called an emergency session. Every member world sent representatives, not to debate, but to witness humanity's formal introduction to the galaxy. For 200 years, humans had hidden their true nature. No more. Ambassador Rex stood at the podium again, but this time no one laughed. "We propose the Death Worlder doctrine," he began. "Humanity will guard the galaxy's borders. We'll colonize the worlds you consider uninhabitable. We'll face the threats you cannot. In exchange?" Vara asked, though she suspected the answer. "Nothing. Guardianship isn't a transaction. It's a responsibility." The crystalline beings chimed in harmony, their species' way of showing deep respect. The gas creatures from Neptune released golden clouds, their highest honor. One by one, every species showed their appreciation. But Crix asked the question everyone wondered. Why hide this strength for so long? Rex smiled. Because strength shown too early breeds fear and conflict. We needed the galaxy to know us as traitors and helpers first. Now, when we show our strength, you know it comes with wisdom. Over the following months, humanity's true history was revealed. The wars that had nearly destroyed Earth, but instead taught cooperation. The plagues that had killed millions, but led to medical breakthroughs. The disasters that had leveled cities, but inspired engineering marvels. Human schools were opened on other worlds, not military academies, but survival schools. Species learned to face controlled dangers, to grow through challenge rather than despite it. The galaxy began to understand that Deathworlders weren't born, but made, one small victory over death at a time. A year later, the Council reconvened. The galaxy map had changed dramatically. Red zones marked as uninhabitable were now dotted with human colonies. Dead systems were showing signs of life. Trade routes through dangerous space were protected by human patrols. "You've changed everything," Vara said to Rex. "No," Rex replied. "We've shown you what was always possible. Every species can become stronger. Every world has lessons to teach. The swarm saw diversity as weakness. We see it as the galaxy's greatest strength." A new threat alert appeared, something from beyond the galaxy. Darker than the swarm. The council members tensed. But Rex just grinned. "Want to see what humans do with impossible odds?" he asked. Stone's voice echoed through the chamber. "Deathworlder Armada. New contact at galactic edge. Unknown origin. Hostile intent confirmed." The response came from 50,000 ships in 100 different human dialects. Finally, a real challenge. The Council realized then that humanity hadn't just saved them from the swarm. They had shown the galaxy how to save itself by embracing the struggle, learning from defeat, and turning every death world into a birthplace of heroes. The age of hiding was over. The age of the Deathworlders had begun. The end asterisk.